When introducing something new from a different culture, one must find a way to smoothly make it into the new people's life, but that also allows the introducer to hold full power choosing what to introduce. How could we know what the introducer has chosen not to tell us, or what he told is the truth?
In these sections, I compare the lineage of the Shakyas with the two groups of the work in regard to the life of the Shakyamuni and his lineage. The Buddhist biographical work translated into Chinese, of which original versions were many from the Central Asia and the Northern India, and the modern academic work, of which primary sources are Pali's. So I ascribe some problems of the Buddhist studies to the Pali Text Society and his followers, Oriental followers. Some characteristics of Sengyou's narration of Buddhist history were also described. It is conventional for 4 or 8 wondrous episodes of the life of Sakyamuni to be depicted in biographical work. The 4 episodes, Professor Dawes already mentioned. The first is birth, then defeating the Mara, the missionary activities, and the entering Nirvana. The 8 episodes are descending from the Tushita haven, entering the womb of Sakyamuni's mother Maya, the birth and the renunciation of the princely life, and defeating the Mara, the becoming enlightened, missionary activities, and entering the Nirvana. That's the 8 episodes. But Buddhist biographical work, translated from the Central Asian or the Indian original versions, whether of the mainstream of Mahayana Buddhism, describe these episodes in varying degrees. However, none of them relates the family of Sakyamuni to the emergence of first king Samatha, and none mentions why a ruler can be a spiritual guide. Sengyou is probably the first Buddhist historian to do so. More significantly, he explains historical events in Mahayana Buddhism in a Buddhist light, that all of these were apparitions as Dharma dwells internally, but its manifestation and the prevalence come with the veneration of the 3 gems. His historiography refers to a current world to be imperfect and expect the upcoming of Maitreya to bring deteriorated human condition back to the nostalgic primordial time. I said some things here about this. His perception of Buddhist history resonates on pages 27. Eliade a theory on the history of religion. Eliade thinks that the sacred, once concretely conceived and valorized in a culture, always underlies historical events as hierophany that promote man to return to a mythic memory of a lost paradise. The Buddha, according to the Sengyou's narration, is the lineage of the Shakyas, is equivalent to the sacred, and his lineage from the history of the sacred. Events in this history appears ever-changing, but they all serve to recall man trapped in the 5 corruptions, returning to the paradisical cosmic origin, which will be reinstated by Maitreya Buddha. His wish is clearly expressed at the end both of the preface and of the work. Sengyou understood that his description of Buddha's lineage as a sacred was difficult to accept by the Chinese, Buddhism was a foreign religion and the Buddha was not present in ancient Chinese culture, which Confucian scholars perceive to be sacred. The Mahayana Buddhist conception of Buddha and the Bodhisattva pervading in the cosmos was a rational choice for this Sarvasvati monk. Sengyou is a Sarvasvati monk, but he had to choose, the story of Mahayana Buddhism to make the Buddhist, Chinese Buddhist historiographical work. He saw that the cosmos, China, this cosmos, China included, though geographically divided, was permitted with the Dharma, which would manifest where Buddha was venerated. His confidence was supported by the doctrine of the Lotus Sutra and the Parinirvana Sutra. In the Parinirvana Sutra says, the Buddhas is beyond the phenomenal distinction of life and death, and the Buddha actually is the embodiment of is a luminous of the incarnation of the Dharma. As a result, that's very, very important. It really surprised me about this statement. As a result, an intended consequence occurred. The implementation of the Dharma was transferred from the Indian to China in these historiographical views. He says, the Dharma ended in Indians, and that he have to continue in China. Maybe it's a misconception, and then misconception is still a kind of concept, misunderstanding. But misunderstanding is still kind of understanding. Nevertheless, Sengyou realized that Chinese ruler was perceived to be sacred and held absolute power. Buddhism is hardly challenges such authoritative rulership. In addition, Sengyou was concerned about the failure of Buddhism in China that caused him to emphasize in his work the relation of the Sakyamuniin lineage to Chakravartis, the royal family's abandonment of the princely life to enroll in Sangha, and the patronage of Ashoka. Such a king-oriented narration was distinctively different from the individualist tone of modern academic work. The king-oriented narration also tallied with the status of Sengyou. He was appointed to supervise the behavior of Buddhist practitioners in the empire. He's a high-ranking the Vinaya monk. He believed that the virtue of the upper class could affect the behavior of the lower classes, and as such, that the Buddhist faith should be performed more communally than individually. This did not mean that the Chinese Buddhist individuals lost their glamour and nobility with a great knowledge of Dharma and a rigorous observance of the discipline. Rather, it meant that decentralized Buddhist monasteries submit themselves to a centralized kingship. Sangha became an institution to help rulers educate their subject. At last, we ask whether the erudite Sengyou adopted the Vamsa. When I read the text, I read this text format really like, the Vamsa. So adopt the Vamsa genres of Indian literature to complete the lineage of Sangha. The Sengyou's narrative style was similar to that of the Vamsa's literature, which is mainly made of the name and events list, so as to connect one area with a sacred center, i.e. India. I think, I can figure out why a lot of the Chinese, Tibetan, the Buddhists trace back the origin to the sacred center, Gudraguta, Mountain Gudraguta, and a lot of places call themselves Gudraguta. Probably that means the center of is a regional centers. It's a sacred center in a local, in a regional local, in a particular the regions. My study shows that the Vamsa textual style was widely used in a Buddhist literature. Sengyou may have unknowingly adopted this style to write this work. In addition, Vamsa has a strong connection with Purana, a quasi-historical writing style in Indian literature. This kind of text, entitling each story with, in Chinese, yuan, why this story occurred, was already introduced into China before Sengyou time, as shown by the Purana Mukha Avanda Satanka. Since Yuan story could not be validated and had a strange and foreign origins, Sengyou's Lineage of Sakyamuniin was never regarded by Chinese historians as a historical work. So I think so we have to pay attention to this religious historical work. By the modern standard of the historical work, this work is not fully qualified, but it deeply affects the people's imagination. And in the 19th centuries, as I said, put in the introductions, introductory part. And since the European Enlightenment scholar want to know how people behaviors is discourse on individuals' principle rather than the God's dictation. And I think they have their own way to conceptualizing the Orientals, the Buddhism. But that's the past, and I think these papers I try to reflect, by taking this work as example to reflect the discipline, the contradictions among the various disciplines. That's my paper.